This is my story. I was paid by Cassie, Cassandra Ventura, for 8 years to be her male provider. I didn't have to be the best looking guy. I was the best in bed. I was given this arrangement. I was coerced. I was drugged. I was manipulated with promises of money and gifts for over a period of 8 years to continue to be this woman's provider at her expense and at the expense of Diddy.
So she already admitted in court that she would have these like infections so bad that after a while, like the medication was no longer working, and like that's how frequently she was getting these infections. Now, she later admitted, according to him, to contracting the STD and blamed
R.I.P. to her
Diddy's
husband.
infidelity, showing reckless regard for Clayton's health. Her action resulted, now this is where it gets a little messy, okay?
Damn.
Now, he's claiming that he got her pregnant.
If true, right? This is all alleged. It is wild to be a participant of a freak off in this wild ass lifestyle and not being on birth control. Crazy. The gentleman at the bottom of the screen here, if you are unfamiliar with his face, he goes by the name The Punisher. He was one of the escorts identified in the Diddy trial, where Diddy and Cassie Ventura would hire male escorts, fly them from all over the country in order to engage in their baby oil-filled freak-offs. Now, what's interesting is that within Diddy's case, he has been found guilty of transportation, but I would love to propose to you guys here today, if Diddy was found guilty of transportation, then why was not Cassie? Because within the trial, the thinly woven veil of the, oh, woe is me, I am a victim persona or brand that Cassie was trying to portray was quickly removed due to admissions like this one right here. Listen up.
Who actually organized this? I mean, who was doing the interactions with you, the payments and so on?
I only ever spoke to and interacted with Miss Ventura, from telephone calls, text messages, to when I was greeted at the hotel room, to even cordial conversations before and after the sexual play I described. All my interactions was with her.
It's very interesting that the person that was purporting to be the complete victim in this case, now, not victim of domestic violence, we know that she's the victim of that, but the victim in this kind of trafficking, transportation. It's interesting that this guy only had interactions with Cassie. This gentleman would also go on to explain a story about how he was unable to make one of their rendezvous, and Cassie just so quickly asked, hey, do you got anyone else that can substitute for you?
I'm with my girlfriend at Six Flags, and she called up and was like, yo, are you free? And usually when I would come through, it would be like 3 days in a row. I'll come Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. So I'm like, yo, you know what? I'm in Six Flags. Can I come the next day? And she was like, oh, yo, if you can't make it, can you send somebody else? What? And bro, I was butthurt, right?
Wow.
Whoa. You thinking you just
I
was just about to go there, bro, because you've been getting this money consistently. No, but I'm saying, like, I would have felt some type of way about that.
Yeah, and also I think I'm special.
Right. I was gonna ask you.
Yeah,
boyfriend, girlfriend scenario.
Because I believed that at the time when this was going on, I thought I was the only guy they were doing this with. Because when she first called me, it was like, it's my birthday, did something special. So, you know, the few people I told, I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm Cassie's guy, you know, when she, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Ego shit.
So when she said just send anybody else, I was just like, oh man, like I'm just.
Did you refer somebody?
Hell no. I made up some excuse to my girl. Hey, yo, something happened. We got to go.
Cassie's freak apparently knows no bounds. And again, if Diddy is getting prosecuted on all of this, then why is not Cassie? Now, up until this point, we've only seen this male escort, The Punisher, speaking about his experiences in public interviews. But now there's another. And this gentleman is not only speaking about it, but he's suing both Diddy and Cassie for how he's been wronged.
As a man, if I had laid down with a woman and forced myself on her and orgasmed in her and she got up and it was leaking out of her, guess what? I would have raped her. So by statute, by case law definition, Cassandra Ventura sexually assaulted me. I'm not looking to destroy Cassie. I've given Cassie more than a year to settle this before things got out of control. The problem is she's being supported by women like you who would choose to to attack male victims instead of accept the truth, which is that a woman could have lied to get revenge on the ex-boyfriend who broke her heart and hurt her. It happens, people. They say hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, and that's true. If you hurt some women, they will do everything in their power. If you hurt some men, they'll do everything in their power to hurt you. But I want to end this by saying this. Cassie did this to herself. They say he who sets out on the course of revenge should dig 2 graves. People, Cassie dug the grave that is Clayton Howard herself. Cassie got on the stand trying to destroy Diddy. She should have took her $20-30 million and walked into the sunset.
Now, Poetic Flacco, friend of the channel, did an amazing breakdown of the situation. So let's go over to him for the reporting.
Cassie just received the worst possible news she could have ever gotten. And this is coming days after Diddy was acquitted on charges accusing him of trafficking her. This new development could bankrupt Cassie and take away all $30 million that she received for being a victim of Diddy. Back in 2024, when the feds were investigating Diddy for racketeering, trafficking, among other charges, they had a conversation with Cassie. Cassie was cooperative, and the feds asked Cassie to give them a list of names of the male escorts that her and Diddy had freak-offs with. Cassie gave the feds a bunch of names. A lot of the names that Cassie gave was brought up at trial, and some of them was called to testify, one of them being the Punisher. And all the escorts that were called to testify during the Diddy trial, they all testified that Cassie was who booked them and Cassie was who paid them. One escort in particular, Clayton Howard, he took it beyond Cassie just booking him. See, Clayton has a great deal of resentment for Cassie because he feels like Cassie involved him in something by giving his name to the feds that he didn't want to be involved in. So when he spoke to the feds, he went out of his way to notify the feds that he believed that Cassie was a co-conspirator, that Cassie was just as bad as Diddy, and that Cassie used Diddy power to torment the lives of other people.
One, I was in an economic position where I really needed the money. 2, Mr. Combs is incredibly powerful, and Miss Ventura had no problem ending her use of that power, which has actually been revealed now because we've heard recordings of her threatening people. We've seen text messages. There are many different sides to people, and even Cassie as a normal individual, she has herself. There's a side to her that people don't know, the side that manipulated Sean Combs' power, the side that embraced his power and his position to do things that she
wielded
wanted.
it.
So I was always afraid if I stopped coming, then I would start to have problems because she threatened me several times not to come and made me feel uncomfortable that I would come to see her just to avoid any problem with Sean Combs. He's incredibly powerful. He has people that could follow me around, damaging my life for years, and it would cost him nothing to do it. So I want to say I continued in the situation, but not as much. There was many times that I did stall them, flake on them as the word goes, and not show up. But I kept the relationship strong enough that they never thought I was trying to turn on them or betray their secret.
Obviously, because he feels this way and has these opinions on Cassie, he was never called to testify. Because it don't look great for your case as a prosecutor to say that Diddy trafficked Cassie when this man is saying that Cassie was just as bad as Diddy in his dealings with Diddy and Cassie. So
I wish that the defense brought him in order to give his perspective in front of the jurors. Not like it would have changed anything. I still think Diddy would have gotten at least transportation. But his testimony paints even a darker picture on who Cassie is and what power of Diddy's that she wielded within that relationship. I've said since the beginning, this sounds more like a toxic domestic violence situation, but Cassie also sounds like the bottom B. Cassie sounds like the madame in the operation, and she wielded his power like a sword. And then when she wanted a payday all of those years later, she moved the final chess piece in a way to have him settle, getting the $20 million, next chess piece, getting $10 million from the hotel. And she was so confident and so brazen and people believing her that she got up on that stand. But now after speaking and picking apart her testimony, the general sentiment has greatly shifted in her participation.
He was never called to testify. He was brought up in trial. They say that him and Cassie was involved at the Four Seasons, but his testimony, his statements made to the feds was never brought up at trial. He wanted to testify because he had plans on outing Cassie before the trial and during the trial, but the feds did not allow it. Now, here's where things begin to get very tricky, and we begin to witness some foul play at work here. See, his lawyer was Tyrone Blackburn, the same lawyer who represents Lil Rod. Lil Rod was one of the first people who sued Diddy. The feds actually used Lil Rod's lawsuit against Diddy to help structure this RICO case. So the feds was working with Tyrone Blackburn to make sure that his client Clayton Howard don't come out during the trial and don't speak out against Cassie and stays quiet until this trial is over. So Tyrone Blackburn was giving Clayton Howard the runaround when Clayton Howard was telling Tyrone he was ready to file a lawsuit against Cassie while the trial was going on.
I have been trying to file litigation for this matter against Sean Combs and Cassie since I want to say March of 2024, maybe February. But I was represented by Tyrone Blackburn. And Tyrone Blackburn has a substantial amount of litigation against Sean Combs that the conviction of Sean Combs was dependent on him winning a lot of his civil cases. My attorney intentionally held the filing back to protect the credibility of Cassie. Tyrone Blackburn, he intentionally held it back. I have numerous communications to him where I am directly informing him to file. He would talk to the prosecutors and then he would duck me for weeks and not file the lawsuit. So this is why it was never filed.
Tyrone also represented Lil Rod and other people. So on top of the feds pressuring him to not blow this and to not allow this guy to file litigation against Cassie before the trial is over, he is also incentivized for a guilty verdict to come for Diddy because he wants, for this guilty verdict to be in place. So then he could take this guilty verdict, take it to a civil court, and get a lot of money for his other victims who were involved with Diddy. So Tyrone Blackburn was also incentivized for him not to sue Cassie as well, because once you put Cassie's credibility at question, that right there is the foundation of this entire RICO against Diddy. Mm-hmm. When Cassie falls, the case falls.
Yeah.
And also, too, if the defense attorney gets wind that this dude is trying to sue Cassie, they would just call him in as a witness and have him testify to everything he's telling TMZ right now. So Clayton eventually realizes Tyrone is stalling him, so that he fires Tyrone and files the lawsuit eventually. His lawsuit is predicated on the Adult Survivors Act and also the Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act, where he will list Diddy and Cassie as co-conspirators. Here's where Cassie may be in trouble. So the law allowed human trafficking victims with a right to sue those responsible for their trafficking. However, even if the courts find that Cassie, isn't directly responsible for this dude being trafficked, it was expanded in 2008 to specifically include trafficking survivors and allow victims to sue anyone who knowingly benefited financially or by receiving anything of value from the trafficking crimes committed against them. This can include the buyer of the Commercial Sex Act. Diddy was found not guilty in criminal court of trafficking Cassie. Yeah. The court listed Cassie as an equal participator in this. And if Cassie was the one who was paying these dues, she was the one who executed the transaction. She paid for the commercial sex. But beyond that, if they don't want to give her, she paid for the commercial sex, she undoubtedly benefited from this. She testified in court that Diddy gave her gifts. Diddy rewarded her. Diddy paid for her home. Diddy bought her expensive trips because she would engage in these free calls. That came with a $500,000 trip at Chanel. That came with cars. That came with houses. So undoubtedly here, Cassie is culpable in some way. And if you're Cassie and you are the public recipient of $30 million due to being the victim of Diddy, now you have a lot of people who was looking at that $30 million and
that's
thinking, I want a portion of that pie.
Yeah.
Clayton Howard is just the first. If he is successful, trust and believe, bro, the hundreds of men that were involved in these free calls, they're coming out the woodworks too. And Cassie is now about to see herself in a situation like Diddy. Once one person sue, the entire army is coming, bro. The entire village want to cut. But I was able to recover Clayton Howard's lawsuit, and we're going to go through exactly what accusations he's making against Cassie. He accused Cassie of trafficking him for commercial purposes, luring him with promises of gifts and favors, transporting him across state lines for prolonged sex encounters. She allegedly held him for days, using coercion and fraud to keep him under control. She pressured and threatened Howard to make himself available for these encounters, using financial compensation and isolation tactics to ensure compliance. Now, she would apparently withhold his clothing and phone so he wouldn't leave and he would stay for these prolonged encounters.
I know some of you guys are saying, well, if Diddy wasn't found guilty of trafficking, then why would Cassie? And you have to remember, that's why I played the clip all the way in the beginning, is that Cassie was the one that was doing the majority, the lion's share of communication with these men. So while there was not enough receipts to convict Sean Combs of trafficking, let's say some of these men have evidence of their clothing being withheld or their phones being withheld in order to ensure compliance. We don't know if there was any documented coercion or what fraud was utilized to keep people in line or under control. So it sounds like these men deserve their day in court, just as Cassie did.
If you closed your eyes as I read that, you would have probably almost thought like I was reading a lawsuit from Cassie to Diddy.
Yeah.
Because what he is accusing Cassie of is exactly what Cassie is accusing Diddy of. He will lay claim that he was drugged and manipulated by Cassie, and even claiming that Cassie admitted to drugging him. So Ventura allegedly drugged Howard Clayton with controlled substances, including MDMA, at triple the doses she consumed to lower his inhibitions and facilitate sex exploitation. She admitted to drugging him after he confronted her about an incident that left him disoriented and ill. She provided Howard with substances like ecstasy and marijuana to keep him awake and compliant during encounters, manipulating him into continued participation.
Now, the general sentiment between all of these Diddy haters and Cassie supporters is that, you know, she was just under so much violence and, you know, she didn't know what to do. Diddy was paying her, you know, salary, you know, it was only, or there's another option there where Cassie was benefiting not only just monetarily of listening to Sean Combs, but then also sexually in getting her rocks off in these odd things that she was involved with, and wanted to continue this lifestyle and continue to wield this power because she wouldn't have been able to do it without. That actually makes more logical sense why she would stay within a situation for this long when it was obvious that she had means to escape. I mean, she cheated on multiple people with Combs during her dating relationship with him. That doesn't sound like someone who was a damn victim, 100% victim within the relationship.
The argument that a lot of people will have that if this is true is that Cassie was acting on behalf of Diddy. Cassie was just doing things to make sure that Diddy enjoyed himself, and she was just carrying out acts or favors for Diddy. But then we have to go back to the racketeering and to the RICO that Diddy was charged with. If it's a criminal organization, then there are people under that organization who did things. The reason why Diddy had no co-conspirators was because the co-conspirator was also the alleged victim. So if Cassie was doing these things on behalf of Diddy or at the direction of Diddy, that don't make her any less responsible. She's still responsible for doing these things to someone if these things are true. When I got to this part of the lawsuit, I fell out my chair. I would think that if I'm like an escort and I'm dealing with Cassie and Diddy, the least of my worries is I could catch something. These people are extremely wealthy at the top echelon of society. I don't think they would be carrying STDs around, but apparently I was wrong. Because according to Clayton Howard, Ventura initiated and insisted on unprotected sexual contact, disregarded Howard's safety, which led him to contracting chlamydia from her. When she was in court, Cassie did say that like she had like extreme like infections. Damn. That like it would go like weeks. Her vagina would still be hurting, and that Diddy won't care. He would try to get it cured up quickly so he could get back to a freak off. So she already admitted in court that she would have these like infections so bad that after a while, like the medication was no longer working, and like that's how frequently she was getting these infections. Now she later admitted, according to him, to contracting the STD and blamed Diddy's infidelity, showing reckless regard for Clayton's health. Her action resulted. Now this is where it gets a little messy. Okay.
Damn.
Now he's claiming that he got her pregnant. And he's claiming that she aborted the pregnancy without informing him until later, continuing to demand unprotected sex.
If true, right? This is all alleged. It is wild to be a participant of a freak off in this wild ass lifestyle and not being on birth control. crazy.
Now listen, bro. This is just trifling. Now you really can't sue someone for terminating your baby, especially not in the U.S. But yo, that just goes to show like how reckless Cassie was, specifically for her own personal autonomy. You reckless, bro. You getting pregnant, like you're not on birth. Like,
Crazy.
bro, what's going on? I would think, bro, yo, if Diddy had numerous men busting in you, bro, like you would at least, I don't know, bro, get the tubes tied, get birth control, something, man. But you getting pregnant, STDs allegedly. My God. According to him, Cassie will record him in compromising positions without his consent, using these recordings for her and Diddy's mutual gratification. When confronted, she justified the recordings by demonstrating her enjoyment of them, further manipulating Howard.
Wow.
Because there were times, by the way, where like Cassie and the escorts would do things by themselves when Diddy couldn't make it and she would record it, I guess. Now, deception and false pretenses. Ventura concealed her identity by using the alias Jackie Starr and misrepresented her relationship with Combs, claiming they were married to entice Howard into sexual encounters. In court, Cassie would testify that Diddy made her do it unprotected. However, in this lawsuit, this is why we begin to see why they didn't want this man on that stand, because he testified she lied to Diddy about reviewing Clayton's STD results to justify unprotected egg, pressuring Howard to continue despite his objections.
This is crazy.
Diddy was just convicted for transporting Cassie to engage in a freak-off, violating a Man's Act. So if Cassie transported these dudes to engage in a freak-off, then she violated the Man's Act too.
The fact that it's called the Mann Act is actually super ironic too, by the way. I know that it was created on behalf of the last name of the politician who inked it, who penned it, and it was like back in the early 1900s. And it also has been utilized to convict women as well, such as Giselle, what's her name? Giselle Maxwell, the Epstein bottom B. But yeah, I just find that ironic.
The majority probably thinks Cassie is a victim in this trafficking scenario. Now, Cassie was a victim of domestic violence, 100%, no doubt. We witnessed it firsthand.
For sure.
But a lot of other people do believe that Cassie was also a victim of trafficking. So when he filed his lawsuit against Cassie, the people who believe that Cassie is a victim of trafficking, they've been really hard on this dude. I mean, they've been doxing him. They've been attacking him online, calling him a bum. So he made a video speaking up for himself, and here's what he had to say.
So good morning. I am Dave, the man who has just sued Cassandra Ventura for damages involved in the Sean Combs sex trafficking trial. And I'm looking through social media and I see a lot of the women out there, particularly black women like myself, who choose to victim shame me and try to do everything they can to discredit me, because the truth is that the loss of the Sean Combs trial was a loss to the Me Too movement and to hating women like the women who are trying to insult me. So let me tell you something, you women out there who would like to insult me. This is my story. I was paid by Cassie, Cassandra Ventura, for 8 years to be her male provider. I didn't have to be the best looking guy. I was the best in bed. And because I was the best in bed, guess what? I was given this arrangement. I was coerced. I was drugged. I was manipulated with promises of money and gifts for over a period of 8 years to continue to be this woman's provider at her expense and at the expense of Diddy. Now, at the time, legally, I didn't know my rights as well as I do now. I didn't create this conflict with Cassandra Ventura. She created it with me. She's the one who decided to bring up things that happened over 10 to 15 years ago to hold Sean Combs accountable for what was a partial truth. She's the person who introduced me to the U.S. Attorney's Office. She's the person who told the U.S. Attorney's Office about our relationship. So in essence, those out there who want to hate on me, who want to say that I'm attacking Cassie, you should realize the truth, that Cassandra Ventura, your idol, did this to herself. She exposed herself to liability when she got on the stand and decided to mention me as the male escort who was with her when she overdosed and Diddy made her have sex with him. That was a lie, people. Cassie had just woke up from sleeping 8 hours. Myself and Sean Combs were exhausted. We wanted to go home. Cassie's the one who forced that sexual encounter. People, she tells you that Sean Combs made her have sex on her menstrual cycle. I can't speak for anyone else but myself. But I know the one time that did happen, that Sean Combs was not responsible for that Cassie, and a drunken, intoxicated hormonally imbalanced state due to her period,
Speaks well.
manipulated and forced herself on me during her menstrual cycle. And what I mean by that is I had no knowledge she was on her menstrual cycle because the room was completely dark. She manipulated the room.
You couldn't smell the
Imagine doing some
pennies?
freaky things when you were younger to
Let me also just say this. I find it also interesting that the same people that will ride high for someone of the image of a Cassie are not the same people that when someone else comes out claiming to be a victim, even after hearing everything that we've heard within the court case, that then they turn on that same person just because he's a man. There is a legitimate belief that men cannot be victims within this. This, amongst many other reasons, is why the internet gender war continues to persist. Literally the exact same story, flip the genders, and all of a sudden y'all don't believe them.
make some
Interesting.
extra cash. But then you grew up and you moved on. You became a social activist. You're now protesting against the police, protesting political causes. And then you look up and your name is being listed in the biggest case, probably in like the modern era, listing you as a male escort, listing all the nasty things you did for money 10, 20 years ago. I think you'll be upset too, and you'll probably have a vendetta against the person who brought this upon your life. You'll probably hate the person who dug everything up and brought you right back into this when you were trying to move on. Because, you can find multiple videos about him protesting the police, protesting against the police, like protesting police brutality. So it looks like he was trying to be at least an activist or at least get into politics. But now those prospects is over with, bro. Can you imagine voting for a mayor who was raw Cassie in front of Diddy? Like, cut it out, bro. Like, that day is over with. Like, those days is done for. So, listen, man, I don't know. The vendetta against Cassie does throw a wrench into this, because having this much vendetta and hatred for Cassie would probably, I don't know, incentivize you to kind of add some juice to some things regarding Cassie and Diddy. But I guess we'll find out in the court of law, man.
Shout out to Flacco. Again, I'll leave his video down in the description box down below. I think he did a very, very good job of putting all that information together. But looking at everything that's currently being alleged by the brother and then cross-referencing that to things that we heard, the intimate details within Diddy's trial, I think that there's going to be a large portion of the $30 million awarded to Cassie that will eventually, inevitably, be extracted from her. It's crazy how a couple of receipts and some testimony can make you transition from the victim to the co-conspirator. If all these things are true, then I do hope justice is served in all these places where they faced injustice. All right, guys, leave me your comments down in the comment box down below. I want to hear what you guys think about this. Do you think charges will be brought to Cassie? Do you think that this is another case of try the man but never try the woman? I want to know what you guys think about it. Leave me some comments down in the comment box down below, and I'll see you guys soon. Until next time, YouTube, peace.
You is ratchet as they come, rainbow weaves and batwing lashes, weighing more than a man. What time is your football practice? I bet you can hit that A gift like a mug. How you big back it? Said a man must buy you gifts. Where here goes a Fitbit tracker? Are you mad? Cause you got 3 kids by 4 different dads. You pick cookies, then you bash. Oh man.